It's amazing they got paid so much money for that.
25 million and 40 million?
I think 20 and 40. Yeah,
20 and
I think
40.
that's what I'd heard. You know, which I'm happy Mike got the money, and I'm happy that he didn't get hurt. That was my fear, that it was going to.
Joe Rogan recently shocked fans by calling out Mike Tyson for rejecting a rematch with Jake Paul. Tyson, once known for delivering knockout punches that sent opponents flying, now refuses to face Paul, a YouTuber-turned-fighter. It's astonishing to see Tyson, a former boxing legend, turn down a fight with someone who just recently ventured into the ring. It's almost laughable, yet here we are.
You know, whatever they're paying him, he's been making good money. You know, he's come back, like I said, in his life. He's done a good job.
According to Rogan, Tyson's decision to back out of a rematch is a red flag as big as a Vegas billboard, unless the fight was scripted. Rogan questions why Tyson won't step back in the ring, asking if it's too much arthritis this time, or if the writers just couldn't put together a sequel.
There's a lot of, Portnoy went out and said that it was the greatest con job of all time. I mean, if you didn't think that that's the way the fight, I don't know what people expected. You know, Mike's almost 60.
It's painful to watch legends fall short of their legacy, choosing comfort over confrontation. But what stings the most is the message it sends, that even the strongest may one day shy away from a fight. For fans who've admired Tyson for decades, it feels like a betrayal, not just of the sport, but of the belief that true greatness never backs down, no matter the challenge.
Understand it was a big nostalgia hit. It got our attention. It was a big financial promotion for everybody, and it actually worked. Now, the fight was absolutely terrible, and it feels like Paul was holding back his punches, and at times Mike Tyson was holding back punches.
The first fight was filled with red flags. Tyson, the man known for his ferocity and knockouts, seemed hesitant. His punches, once powerful enough to send opponents into dreamland, suddenly lacked conviction. Watching him face Jake Paul felt like watching a lion toy with his prey, only to suddenly decide to go vegan. Rogan, dripping with sarcasm, quipped, "You're telling me Mike Tyson forgot how to throw a real punch?" Sure, and Jake Paul is the greatest boxer of all time. It was hard to watch.
I love that dude.
Me too.
And he was a larger-than-life figure in my childhood.
Truly, me
when
too.
I was a kid, when he was the champ, it was like, people don't understand what a champ he was. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't just the heavyweight champion of the world. He was an executioner.
It wasn't just Tyson's punches that seemed off. His footwork was sluggish, like he was dancing on thin ice. And then there's Jake Paul. Somehow, the YouTuber managed to endure Tyson's punches without flinching. This is the same guy who struggled against retired athletes and wrestlers, yet he stood his ground against one of the most feared boxers in history. Rogan joked, either Jake Paul is made of steel, or Tyson was pulling his punches like a parent sparring with their toddler. It didn't add up.
Bit of a shit show, but, you know, what did you expect? Seriously, when you stayed home and you turned on Netflix that night, we were like, holy, I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Boxing analysts didn't hold back either. One expert pointed out that Tyson's performance was unusually tame, claiming his punches looked like they were thrown with half the power we know he's capable of. If that wasn't intentional, I'd be shocked, they said. Another trainer added, no boxer at Tyson's level suddenly forgets their instincts. What we saw wasn't Mike Tyson the fighter, it was Mike Tyson the actor. Tyson's refusal to rematch Jake Paul only adds fuel to the fire. Rogan, always quick to call out the obvious, tore into the excuses. Now Tyson's too retired to fight. Too old? Too busy? He mocked. Funny, none of those things stopped him from signing up for the first fight. The sarcasm was sharp, but the message was clear. Tyson's refusal doesn't make sense unless there's something to hide. Dana White, a purist when it comes to combat sports, would likely take a similar critical stance, though with more focus on boxing's credibility. White has been vocal about his disdain for Jake Paul's carefully curated fight history and would probably argue that the match was more about entertainment than actual competition. If there's nothing to hide, White would ask, why not agree to a rematch? He would likely point to Tyson's refusal as a red flag, viewing it as another example of how celebrity boxing undermines the authenticity of combat sports. For White, it's not just about Tyson, it's about the growing dilution of real competition in the sport.
X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on X.
What's even more suspicious is how this fits perfectly into Jake Paul's brand. Let's face it, Jake Paul isn't in boxing for the sport. He's in it for the spectacle, the headlines, and the pay-per-view buys. Rogan couldn't help but laugh at how Tyson's refusal plays right into Jake's narrative. Jake's probably loving this, Joe said. Now he gets to play the victim. Oh no, Mike Tyson won't fight me again. Guess I'm too much for the heavyweight champ. It's comedy gold. Jake has built his entire career on moments like this, cherry-picking opponents who are just the right mix of easy enough to make him look good, but not much of a challenge. Rogan tore into him, saying, "This guy's whole career is built on fighting people who are either retired, smaller, or completely out of their element. Now he's got a heavyweight legend dodging a rematch. Jake couldn't have written a better script." It's hard to ignore the way it all plays into Jake's hands.
Survival. Let's see how accurate it was. Opening bell rings, Tyson is showing flashes of his old form, which actually...
This also raises serious questions about the integrity of the first fight. If it was truly above board, why not prove it with a rematch? A second fight would have been the perfect opportunity for Jake Paul to silence his critics and show the world he can actually hold his own against a legend. But Tyson's refusal practically screams that the first fight wasn't legitimate. Rogan didn't hold back in criticizing Tyson either. Imagine being Mike Tyson, one of the most feared men in boxing history, and now you're dodging a YouTuber, Rogan said. What's next? Refusing to arm wrestle your grandkids because it might hurt your legacy. The sarcasm was thick, but the underlying truth was undeniable. Tyson's legacy, once untouchable, now hangs in the balance. By avoiding the rematch, he's giving fans every reason to believe the first fight was nothing more than a cash grab. Rogan summed it up perfectly. If Tyson wanted to protect his reputation, he'd step back in the ring and prove everyone wrong. Instead, he's hiding behind excuses that don't hold up.
My childhood.
Truly, me
When
too.
I was a kid, when he was the champ, it was like people don't understand what a champ he was. Like he wasn't just the heavyweight champion of the world. He was an executioner.
Meanwhile, Jake Paul is undoubtedly plotting his next move. Rogan joked that Jake is probably already planning his next call-out video, targeting someone even more absurd. Maybe he'll challenge a zookeeper next. I'm taking on the guy who feeds the lions. Let's see if he can handle me. The joke was funny, but it underscored just how ridiculous Jake's fight selection process has become. This whole debacle isn't just a bad look for Tyson or Jake Paul. It's a disaster for boxing. The sport has enough issues without celebrity matches turning it into a sideshow. Fans tune in for skill, heart, and competition. Instead, they're getting something that looks more like a reality TV show. Rogan didn't hold back his disdain, saying boxing is supposed to be the sweet science. Now it's looking more like sweet nonsense. Andrew Tate and Dana White are known for speaking bluntly, and their likely take on the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight would reflect that. Andrew Tate would dismiss the entire match as a spectacle, a hollow performance that tarnishes boxing's legacy. To Tate, the idea that Mike Tyson, once an unstoppable force in boxing, couldn't overpower a YouTuber turned boxer is laughable. He'd argue that the fight wasn't about skill, but about crafting a narrative to further Jake Paul's brand. Tyson should have crushed him, Tate might say. Real fighters don't play soft for the cameras.
Your head is so big. It didn't hurt. Like he didn't really land anything. No, because your head is like just
even the one
just
he
take
landed?
impact like crazy. Even the one he landed, I saw it coming and I went.
The worst part is, fans aren't buying it. They see through the excuses, the dodging, and the PR spin. Tyson's refusal to rematch Jake Paul isn't just a bad decision. It's a betrayal of what boxing is supposed to stand for. Rogan made it clear, the only way to fix this mess is for Tyson to step up and prove the doubters wrong. But will that happen? Probably not. Tyson seems more focused on preserving what's left of his legacy than risking it in a rematch. And Jake Paul? He's likely too busy plotting his next stunt to care about proving himself as a legitimate fighter. Rogan ended his rant with a brutal yet fitting conclusion. If this is what boxing has come to, maybe we should just call it performance art and be done with it. At least then people will know what they're paying for. Tyson's refusal to rematch Jake Paul may seem like a small story, but it's a symptom of a much larger issue. As long as these types of matches continue, boxing's reputation will keep taking hit after hit. Here we are, Mike Tyson, once a symbol of power and dominance, now dodging a YouTuber. Jake Paul, the king of spectacle, is milking the drama for all it's worth. Meanwhile, boxing fans are left shaking their heads, wondering when the sport they love turned into a circus. Rogan's take was harsh, but it was also spot on. If Tyson wants to salvage his reputation, he'll need to do more than just dodge a rematch. He'll need to step up, lace up, and show the world what he's made of. Anything less, and the questions will only get louder.